Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I am Paul, a U.S. Army combat veteran, and we are going to be taking a look at another leaked video coming out of the conflict. And really, I think it illustrates one of the things about this conflict that has shocked me, really surprised me, and subverted my expectations. So we're going to get into that, but first, let's check out this particular video. This is Ukrainian forces shoot down Russian helicopter with the STUGNA-P ATGM system. Also, guys, if you don't mind, hit subscribe. I have this dream that of reaching 100K, and you see I do this from my bedroom, so I think it'd be really cool just to be able to put that little silver plaque up there. Okay, having done that, let's go. All right, so these guys are Ukrainian forces, and it is a screen capture of a screen capture of a screen capture that I'm watching here. And so this is them targeting a Ka-52 Alligator, a Russian-made, I think it's a like close air support helicopter. Now, we've discussed this in other videos. Russia's air tactics are so strange to me. U.S. generally will minimize the amount of time its aircraft sit in this sort of hovering configuration. They really try their absolute best to either be continuously moving, to be at elevation with a lot of standoff distance, or if they're going to have to land, they're going to have another helicopter in support. That would, for example, imagine there was another helicopter gunship overhead that even if this team launched this missile, that second helicopter gunship would target them. So that sort of stuff can provide a deterrent effect. Again, so I'm not clear on what this Ka-52 is doing, hovering in this extremely dangerous elevation by itself. But you can see they are using a, looks like some sort of, well, guided missile system. And often with these guided missile systems, you have to keep the target generally lined up. The missile itself has some sensors. Usually they target heat sources. And so they'll target the engine of the helicopter or aircraft. But they need help to be like, hey, don't fly into the sun, don't fly into the factory burning a kilometer to your east. And so it requires a ground crew to give it a ballpark of where it wants to be looking for enemy heat signatures. So you can see they're doing it here, and they all, of course, do. It's a peak soldier move right there. Everybody yells, yeah. I love how yeah is also universal. Though I'll also acknowledge that, guys, I wanted to thank today's video sponsor, Roman. Roman is a digital health clinic for men. Did you know that ED will affect 52% of men in their lifetimes? It can affect your confidence, but Roman's here to help. Roman uses US licensed medical providers to prescribe FDA approved treatments for ED. All treatments depend on getting an evaluation and a prescription by a US licensed physician or nurse practitioner through the Roman platform. Because Roman is a digital health clinic, getting treatment is convenient. You can be evaluated, diagnosed, and prescribed all from the comfort of your own home. The initial visit and follow-ups are free, as is 2-day shipping. And ED treatments start for as little as $2 a dose, and packaging is always discreet. Roman can also address other male health concerns like hair loss. So if you want $15 off your first treatment, you want to go to getroman.com/CVR. That's getroman.com/CVR. The link is also in the description. And thanks again to Roman for sponsoring today's video. Technically, I feel their happiness. Technically, they should have a perimeter of security, and there should be like a small team that's running this. And maybe the Yaz are just the 3-man team, and there is like a whole platoon of riflemen securing this site. But either way, you can hear they're pretty amped to have taken down a helicopter. And you have to think in the larger meta sense, right? It feels good if you're a soldier and you're able to take out a large enemy combat vehicle. But if you're a country trying to defend yourself from an aggressor, then what you really want to do is you want to try to be as efficient as possible, right? It takes a long time and a lot of money to build a attack helicopter or a helicopter gunship. And so in contrast, it takes still a lot of money by you and I standards, right? But it takes far less money to build even a complex air-to-ground missile system like this. So ballpark it, this is probably, let's say it is $1 million system, right? That helicopter is probably between $15 and $30 million, meaning that you could literally miss something like 8 to 10 shots with this air-to-ground weapon system, and you would still be spending your money twice as effectively as your adversary. And this sort of math, right, it seems sort of silly in the micro sense when you're talking about wars lasting a few weeks. And as the United States, we sometimes forget that wars actually do cost money because we funded so many of our wars with debt. And inexplicably, we kept being able to raise money through debt. People kept loaning us money. So, but for most countries, right, they have to spend their figurative war chest is, well, a literal war chest. And at some point when they run out of money, it becomes really problematic for them to sustain combat operations. So your goal is to kill expensive equipment that's hard to replace with cheap equipment that's easy to replace. And you're watching it happen in real time. That's a lot of Russian tax money that they just blew up. Okay, and this is video talking about the STUGNA-P. It's a remote-controlled anti-tank guided missile system that was designed in Ukraine, right? That's what's so incredible to me. This is Ukrainian Ministry of Defense footage. You can see it's got a nice ruggedized case, and it just sets up on a tripod, point, and guide it into its target. It seems like every other guided air-to-ground anti-tank, or ground air missile, and it's nice because it's remote fired. You don't actually have to expose your team to fire it. Now, what is it about this that surprises me so much? Well, it's that Ukraine, you have to remember, has an economy roughly the size of El Salvador or the Marshall Islands. It's a small economy. And while it's a large country geographically, it doesn't have that many people and that strong an economic base, certainly for manufacturing. And yet they have been able to produce a ton of locally made weapons that frankly are tailor-made for this conflict, right? And the one example that we've already looked at in previous videos has been the Mamluk or Malyuk. I'm sorry, Malyuk or Vulcan. This is a bullpup rifle that basically took leftover AK-74s and modified them into an advanced bullpup rifle with, you can see, it's got Picatinny rails, rail on iron sights, underbarrel. Looks like it has a flash hider or suppressor attachment, and it's so much more compact than the original AK rifle. And this has been made entirely by Ukraine. This is their combat rifle, tailor-made for their military, right? It's actually their second one. They also made something called a Vepr Bullpup. And it's a testament to the fact that, again, these guys looked at what they needed, and when they couldn't find it, they said, hey, we're going to build it in-house. Here is another example, right? We can see on the Wikipedia list of all the equipment used by Ukraine ground forces. Look at how much of it is Ukraine built, right? Obviously, you've got all this, pistols and whatnot, a lot of old Soviet stuff, but look at all of these handguns, right? The Fort 5, the Fort 12, right? A whole line of handguns manufactured by Ukraine itself, including an FN-57 clone, which is packing a punch, right? You can see they've obviously got a lot of Soviets leftover equipment, a lot of US leftover equipment. But again, for a country with an El Salvador-sized budget, these guys, look, have manufactured their own combat shotguns. They've manufactured, obviously, a series of their own combat rifles, right? Look at their sniper rifles. They've got a whole line, Zbroyar. They've got, obviously, their own anti-material rifles they've designed. So there's a ton of obviously old Soviet gear left over from the Cold War, but there's just so much that they've built themselves, especially here's the air-to-ground missile that we just saw. Here's the STUGNA-P, right? They also built the RK-3 Corsair and a barrier anti-tank guided missile. All of these things are incredible that such a small economy has been able to manufacture it. And it's a testament to the fact that while in the U.S., you know, it can sometimes feel like this Ukraine conflict came out of nowhere. That's just a function of the news cycle, right? The fact that COVID kind of took it over for 2 years. But in reality, for most Ukrainians, this conflict has been ongoing since 2014. So they have known, and the threat of Russia has been real for far longer. So the Ukrainians have known that they need to build an army to fight Russia. And when they can't find what they need on the open market or can't afford it, again, as a small economy, they build it. They built their own BTRs, right? We see here the BTR-4. They've got a slew of armored combat vehicles, very similar to scaled-down versions of the U.S. Army's MRAP or MATV. Kraz Cougar, Cobra, Shrek, love it. Shrek 1. All right, shout out to these guys for building the Shrek. But this looks a lot like an RG-31 from the U.S. military. I'm sorry if I got that nomenclature wrong, right? And again, this is what has surprised me about the war, just as much as I've been shocked at sort of Russia's incompetence or the Ukrainian military's. I mean, the Ukrainian military's commitment to fighting hasn't shocked me, though certainly their ability to take out Russian tanks en masse is definitely shocking. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again to our sponsor, Roman, and be sure to subscribe. Also, oh yeah, thanks to our patrons on Patreon. If you want access to some exclusive content, Q&As, breakdowns, you name it, Patreon is the place. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier patrons, Cole Foster, Command Unit Caffeinated, Jacob Flavius, Chris, Dr. Shadowcop, Porter World Time, Brandon Armitage, Tel Ruin, Astro Hunter, and Joker. Okay, that's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one.